Have you ever awakened from a dream so vivid, so powerful, that it lingered in your heart long after your eyes opened? A dream that felt more real than the world around you, as if someone beyond this reality was trying to reach you? What if I told you that according to Edgar Cayce, often called the sleeping prophet, these moments are not mere illusions of the mind but sacred messages, whispers from God Himself, guiding you toward your deeper purpose? Has this ever happened to you? If so, what you're about to discover might surprise you. For centuries, people dismissed dreams as scattered fragments of memory or the brain's way of processing daily life. Yet Cayce dared to challenge that belief, suggesting something far more profound: that dreams are the language of the soul, the sacred channel through which the divine speaks directly to us. Imagine that, your nightly visions, not as random stories, but as conversations with eternity. Suddenly, every detail, the flood of light, the flow of water, the voice that calls your name, takes on a weight that cannot be ignored. These dreams, Cayce insisted, are not entertainment of the subconscious. They are invitations, calls that must be answered. Stay with me until the end, because the truth of what he uncovered may completely transform the way you see the mystery of your own sleep. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Together we create not just a community, but a circle of seekers sharing stories, insights, and experiences that bridge our journeys across continents. Cayce believed that when a dream burns brighter than the sun, when its presence refuses to fade even after waking, it is no accident. It is the unmistakable touch of God. These moments are divine calls, summoning the dreamer into trust, surrender, and higher awareness. Think back to your own nights. Have you ever seen a light in your dreams so radiant it filled you with awe, or heard a voice that seemed to bypass words and speak directly to your heart? These are not coincidences. They are sacred fingerprints, reminders that you are part of something far greater than yourself. During the darkest days of history, when people faced hunger, despair, or loss, Cayce guided them to look within, into the realm of their dreams. He taught that even when the world outside collapses, God continues to speak inwardly, using dreams as a bridge between heaven and earth. Imagine being told that what you thought was only your imagination was, in truth, the Creator reaching out, nudging you toward your destiny. What would that mean for your life? Dreams, Cayce said, carry responsibility. They are not meant to be admired like art in a gallery, but to be lived, to be acted upon. Each dream, no matter how strange, carries with it the possibility of a call to awaken, to surrender to a deeper alignment with Christ, to step into a path you might never have considered. This is not about curiosity. It is about purpose. Ignoring such a call, he warned, could mean ignoring the very reason you were placed on this earth. So as we begin this journey together, allow yourself to reflect. What dreams have stayed with you? Which visions have left you restless, or perhaps filled you with peace that words cannot describe? Could it be that God has already spoken to you in the stillness of the night, and that those moments you brushed aside were in fact your soul's call to awaken? Stay with me, because what comes next will open before you the 7 powerful dream symbols that Edgar Cayce revealed, dreams that are not illusions, but divine invitations. And once you see them, you may never look at your nights in the same way again. If you don't want to miss more insights like this, make sure to subscribe now. This way, every new video will reach you right when you need it most. When we explore Edgar Cayce's legacy, one of the most striking aspects is the sheer weight of evidence behind his words. These were not vague ideas drifting through conversations, nor stories passed on without proof. Every session, every revelation, was carefully transcribed and preserved in the archives of Virginia Beach. Imagine rows of documents, each one capturing a moment where the veil between the ordinary and the extraordinary seemed to dissolve. Behind the scenes of those pages lies a hidden truth. The dreams people once dismissed as meaningless became the very roadmap that reshaped their lives. This was not guesswork or speculation. It was guidance, documented, and lived out in real transformations that impacted families, communities, and individuals at their breaking point. During the Great Depression, when despair wrapped around countless homes like a suffocating fog, people arrived at Cayce's door searching for answers. They weren't seeking entertainment. They were desperate for survival, for meaning, for light in a time when everything around them was crumbling. And again, Cayce pointed them inward, into their dreams. In the stillness of the night, when fear was most overwhelming, visions would come, waters that stretched endlessly, voices that carried strength, or light that pierced through the darkness. For many, these experiences felt like fragments of imagination. Yet through Cayce's eyes, they became the fingerprints of God, signs that no one was truly abandoned, even in the bleakest moments. Consider the mindset shift this provoked. Instead of viewing dreams as random illusions, people began to see them as invitations. When they paid attention, a new perspective unfolded, a revelation that the struggles they faced were not just physical or financial, but spiritual calls to realign with something greater. These were moments when decisions took on new weight. To ignore a dream was to risk ignoring the very purpose behind their suffering. To embrace it was to open the door to healing, to faith, to renewal. That shift in perspective transformed despair into resilience, planting seeds of hope that outlasted the crisis itself. What makes this even more fascinating is the symbolism woven into each dream. Light, for instance, was never just light. It was a presence, a reminder that clarity and truth were close, even if the path seemed hidden. Flowing water became a metaphor for renewal, for movement, for the spirit carrying someone from stagnation to transformation. And the voices, sometimes without form, sometimes impossible to explain, spoke directly to the heart, bypassing logic and awakening something deeper. These were not coincidences, Cayce insisted. They were revelations meant to guide, warnings meant to protect, encouragements meant to strengthen. Think for a moment about the impact of recognizing these symbols in your own journey. A dream of crossing a river might reflect a transition in mindset, a move away from doubt toward trust. A sudden burst of light in the middle of a dream could be the hidden truth of your soul, reminding you that you are not lost, that a higher calling is waiting. When we understand that these moments are layered with meaning, the ordinary transforms into extraordinary. Every image becomes a potential message, every detail a clue pointing toward what the soul longs to embrace. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because Cayce's message wasn't simply about interpreting symbols. It was about realizing that dreams carried responsibility. They were not gifts to be admired and forgotten, but directions to be followed, choices to be acted upon. Ignoring them meant missing opportunities for change, while embracing them often led to breakthroughs that could not be explained by chance alone. This was the power of the soul's language. Subtle, yet insistent. Gentle, yet impossible to silence. And so before we move forward, let me ask you something. Have you ever had a dream that stayed with you, pressing on your heart long after the morning came? A dream that refused to be dismissed, as if it carried a weight larger than your own imagination? If so, I'd love for you to share it here. Write in the comments, "This makes sense to me." That simple phrase will not only mark your connection to this message, but also remind others that they are not alone in their search for meaning. Cayce was relentless in reminding seekers that a dream is never just a vision to be admired from a distance. It is a call, a seed waiting to be acted upon. He spoke of them as invitations that lose their meaning if they remain only in the realm of thought. Action was the key. The moment someone recognized the sacred weight of their dream and decided to embody it in daily life, transformation began. Without that step, the dream would return, echoing in restless nights, until the message was finally acknowledged. It was not about curiosity or entertainment. It was about responsibility, a responsibility to answer the hidden truth of the soul. This responsibility often carried with it a profound shift in mindset. People who once lived on autopilot began to notice how every choice, every decision, was somehow tied to the messages they received at night. A dream could expose what needed to end, highlight what needed to begin, or reveal a path they never thought possible. To ignore it was to risk losing alignment with divine purpose. To accept it was to enter into a journey where each step felt guided, as though unseen hands were shaping the direction of life. In this way, dreams became more than symbols. They became catalysts for growth, shaping relationships, careers, and even destinies. One of the most intriguing aspects of Cayce's trance states was his description of the Akashic Records, that vast spiritual library where every soul's journey is written. He explained that when someone dreamed, they were, in a sense, brushing against these eternal records, glimpsing pieces of their own story woven into a universal tapestry. This was why so many dream symbols felt both deeply personal and strangely universal at the same time. They were not random fragments, but echoes from a field that held every memory, every possibility, every lesson waiting to be lived out. Behind the scenes of sleep, the soul was engaging with truths too vast to be contained in waking language. Think about the impact of such an idea. It means your dream of light is not just yours. It is part of a greater pattern stretching across time, appearing in the visions of countless seekers before you. It means your dream of water, of flowing rivers or endless seas, is not simply about your own renewal, but about a universal passage that has guided others through fear and into faith. The Akashic perspective reframes the entire experience, showing that dreams are not isolated whispers, but part of a grand chorus, where God continues to speak through timeless symbols. This also explains why certain dreams carry such intensity, almost as if they insist on being remembered. They are reminders that the soul is connected to something larger, something that cannot be ignored without consequences. Cayce warned that when someone dismissed these dreams, unrest often followed, inner conflict, dissatisfaction, even illness, because the soul would not rest until it was heard. On the other hand, when the message was embraced, peace and clarity emerged. It was as though the dream had been waiting for the dreamer's courage to respond. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because what emerges here is not just the mystery of dreams but the practical impact they have on human lives. People who acted on their visions found hidden strength, discovered resilience they didn't know they had, and stepped into paths that aligned with their highest calling. Their stories are living proof that these nightly revelations are not passive experiences. They are directions etched into the soul's map. And here is where I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had a dream that felt like it carried weight, one that seemed to demand more than casual reflection? If so, write in the comments, "I feel the call." That phrase will not only mark your recognition of the responsibility behind such dreams, but also encourage others to reflect on their own hidden messages. Water, in Cayce's vision, was never just an image of rivers, oceans, or streams. It was the flowing symbol of spirit itself, the reminder that beneath the turbulence of life, there is always a current carrying us toward something greater. To dream of vast waters meant stepping into trust, surrendering to a presence that is both eternal and infinite. Many who came to him described crossing storms only to find themselves before calm seas, and Cayce would reveal that this was not imagination, but a message, the soul being invited to let go of fear and step into faith. Think about the mindset shift hidden in such a dream. Instead of clinging to control, it calls you to release, to float, to be carried by something far stronger than your own will. Behind the scenes of that image lies the hidden truth that when we resist, we often drown in our anxieties. But when we trust, we find the peace we had been chasing all along. The same was true for light, which appeared again and again in the dreams brought to Cayce. This was not ordinary brightness. It was a brilliance that outshone the sun, filling dreamers with awe, and leaving them unable to return to life as usual. He insisted that this was the unmistakable presence of God, a direct reminder of calling. To awaken from such a vision was to awaken with tears of clarity, with the realization that something had shifted forever. Light had the power to pierce through confusion, to burn away doubt, to illuminate the path that had always been there but remained unseen. For those who embraced it, the impact was undeniable. Entire families who once felt lost found their strength again, rebuilding hope after ruin, rekindling faith when it had nearly burned out. That light was not symbolic in the abstract sense. It became the very force that reshaped lives. Cayce's guidance showed how these symbols, when embraced, could spark transformation that rippled far beyond the individual dreamer. A father who had seen a door open in silence, abandoned dishonest business practices, and found peace he had never known. A woman who dreamed of calm waters after storms, shifted her path from fear to service, dedicating her life to teaching children and bringing meaning to others. Families devastated by financial collapse discovered renewal, not because their circumstances magically changed overnight, but because their inner landscape was transformed. That shift in perspective altered decisions, and those decisions altered their reality. The dreams became the spark, but the action they inspired became the fire that lit the way forward. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because when we recognize water and light as more than fleeting symbols, we see that they are the very essence of God's communication, a language of renewal, guidance, and transformation. These are not passive images but living forces, urging us toward surrender, alignment, and courage. They remind us that even in chaos, there is order waiting to emerge, and even in darkness, there is light that refuses to be extinguished. When people acted on these revelations, their journeys took on new meaning, revealing behind the scenes that divine presence was always near, shaping their paths in ways they could never have orchestrated alone. Have you ever felt this in your own life? Perhaps a dream of light that stayed with you for days, or a vision of water that seemed to cleanse something hidden deep within. If so, share it here by writing, "I've seen the signs." By putting those words down, you acknowledge not only your own journey but also give courage to others who are learning to trust the flow and embrace the light in their own dreams. When Cayce spoke of doors in dreams, he wasn't describing simple entrances or exits. He was unveiling symbols of choice, thresholds between what has been and what could be. To dream of a door opening was to encounter a spiritual opportunity, a chance to step into alignment with divine purpose. Some dreamers saw countless doors, lined up in endless halls, only one of them glowing with light. Cayce explained that this was life itself, full of options, distractions, and detours, but only one path resonating with the higher calling of the soul. The decision to walk through that illuminated doorway was more than symbolic. It was a commitment, a transformation of mindset, a declaration that the dreamer was ready to step away from compromise and step into truth. Behind the scenes, these dreams reflected a hidden truth, that every life reaches moments when the soul knocks, and ignoring the sound means missing the chance to live fully awake. For Cayce, doors were never passive images. They were invitations, urgent yet gentle. A door in a dream carried weight, not because of its appearance, but because of the choice it represented. Would you enter into a new phase, a deeper surrender, a life of service, or would you turn away, remaining in the familiar, but stagnant? He often warned that to dismiss such dreams was to resist divine timing, while to accept them was to align with the flow of spirit itself. The impact of walking through those doors was immense. People abandoned dishonest ways of living, forgave wounds that had anchored them for years, or embraced callings they had long ignored. And each time they did, the dream ceased to haunt them, as if the soul had been satisfied once its message was received. This connection between dreams and purpose led Cayce to emphasize again and again that visions were not random events. They were reminders of the soul's mission, a call to service and prayer, a push toward transformation. A man who dreamed of receiving a book from a luminous figure discovered it was not merely an image, but a representation of his life's work waiting to unfold. A woman who dreamed of endless doors realized that her calling was not about choosing wealth but about choosing service, and once she acted, peace followed. Dreams were, in this sense, the language of destiny, reminding each person why they were here and what they were meant to live for. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because Cayce didn't stop at individual examples. Across thousands of readings, he identified recurring patterns that appeared again and again, symbols so consistent that they revealed universal truths: light, water, messengers, death and rebirth, voices, doors, and journeys. These were the 7 archetypes of divine communication, the hidden structure behind the chaos of dreams. To him, they were not inventions of imagination, but revelations from the soul's dialogue with God. The power of this insight is staggering. It means that no matter where you come from, no matter your background, the soul speaks a common language. Farmers in Kentucky, soldiers overseas, mothers worried for their children, all dreamed the same symbols, each one tailored to their lives yet woven into the same universal pattern. And within these patterns lay the possibility of transformation. Dreams that once seemed random were revealed as stepping stones on the journey of the spirit. Decisions, made after these revelations, reshaped lives, shifted destinies, and healed families. The hidden truth Cayce uncovered was that God was calling not just through scripture or ritual, but every night, in the intimate silence of sleep. And so I ask you, have you ever dreamed of a door that seemed to wait for you, or a light so radiant it felt impossible to ignore? These are not fragments of imagination. They may be your soul's way of pointing you back to purpose. If this resonates with you, write in the comments, "I recognize the signs." That single phrase can serve as both a reflection of your journey and an encouragement to others who are learning to listen to the whispers of their own dreams. There is something profoundly moving about the way dreams of light touch those who experience them. People often described waking with tears on their faces, overwhelmed by a brilliance that no words could capture. It wasn't sunlight, nor the glow of a lamp, but something beyond earthly. Comparison. Light that carried peace and awe at the same time. Cayce explained that this was not a passing image, but the unmistakable presence of God, a direct call to a higher path. Those who encountered it could never forget the impact. It lingered in their hearts, reshaping their perception of reality, reminding them that they were part of something far larger than themselves. But this calling was not meant to remain as a memory alone. Cayce warned that when such dreams were ignored, restlessness followed. The soul would not allow itself to be silenced, and a kind of spiritual tension began to grow inside those who resisted. People described feeling uneasy, dissatisfied with the ordinary routines of life, unable to find peace until they yielded to the message. It was as though the light itself refused to let them go, urging them toward prayer, service, and transformation. This restlessness was not a punishment, but a persistent invitation, pressing them to realign with divine intention. It revealed a hidden truth about the human journey, that we are never fully at ease when we resist the deeper purposes of the soul. Water carried this same insistence, though expressed in another form. Dreams of rivers, oceans, or storms were not simply about nature. They symbolized transitions, passages from one state of being into another. To dream of crossing water was to be invited to move from doubt into faith, from isolation into connection. Cayce explained that storms gave way to calm seas because the soul was being shown what awaited beyond fear. These images revealed behind the scenes what was unfolding in the heart, that every struggle contained the possibility of renewal. A woman who dreamed of walking through fierce winds only to arrive at still waters found the courage to change her life completely. She dedicated herself to teaching and guiding others, embodying the transformation that her dream had foreshadowed. When you think about it, both light and water carry a similar pattern. They remind us that divine presence is not abstract. It enters into the most intimate spaces of our lives, through dreams that leave us shaken yet deeply comforted. Light exposes and guides. Water renews and carries us forward. Together they invite surrender, trust, and action. And when people respond, the results ripple outward. Families once broken find reconciliation. Individuals weighed down by despair find purpose, and communities touched by fear rediscover hope. The power of these symbols lies not in their poetry, but in their impact. They change decisions, alter mindsets, and redirect journeys that seem destined for collapse. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because Cayce's insight into these symbols was not about mystical curiosity, but about the transformation they provoked. To embrace a dream of light meant walking with new clarity, knowing that every step was under divine direction. To accept the crossing of water meant abandoning fear and choosing faith as the foundation for future choices. These were not theoretical interpretations, but living revelations, woven into the very fabric of human experience. When seen this way, dreams are not just private experiences. They are universal reminders that God continues to guide, call, and awaken through the silent language of the soul. Have you ever had a dream of light so intense it felt like a revelation, or of water that seemed to wash away something hidden inside you? If so, share it by writing, "I've felt the shift." Those words will not only mark your recognition of transformation, but also encourage others to reflect on the powerful crossings they, too, may have experienced. Dreams often carry us into landscapes where fear is tested, and yet within those very storms lies the promise of renewal. The woman who dreamed of walking through violent winds only to arrive at calm seas discovered that her vision was not a random creation of the subconscious but a direct call to transformation. The storm represented her inner turmoil, the anxieties that weighed heavily on her decisions, while the still waters revealed the hidden truth waiting beyond fear. A life anchored in faith. Cayce explained that these transitions are never just symbolic, they are the soul's way of preparing us for the choices ahead. The impact of such a dream is profound, because it shifts a person's mindset from survival to trust, showing them that surrender to God's presence is not weakness, but the very source of strength. In other cases, dreams became even more personal, carrying encounters that defied explanation. Men and women described meeting figures who radiated light, beings whose presence was both overwhelming and deeply comforting. Cayce insisted that these were not illusions or tricks of the mind. They were real encounters within the dimension of the soul, where Christ, angels, and prophets continued to guide humanity. Imagine waking from such a dream with the memory of a figure standing before you, not speaking in ordinary words, but communicating through presence, through energy, through an unmistakable vibration that left no room for doubt. These moments revealed that the divine was not distant, but actively engaged in the journey of every seeker, reminding them of their worth, their purpose, and their calling. One of the most powerful images Cayce described was the dream of receiving a book from Christ himself. The book was not just a symbol of knowledge, but of responsibility. It represented the mission each soul carries, the work that only they can fulfill. For the man who dreamed of this moment, the revelation became a turning point. He understood that his life was not simply about surviving day to day, but about embracing a deeper calling that had been written into the very core of his being. That single dream reshaped his path, inspiring him to lead his family into a life centered on faith and service. It was as if the dream had unlocked a hidden chapter within him, one that had always been there, waiting to be lived. These encounters remind us of something extraordinary happening behind the scenes of human experience. Our nights are not silent. They are filled with guidance, with revelations that challenge us to see life as more than chance. Dreams show us that we are never abandoned, even in our darkest moments. When Christ appears, when angels walk beside us in the stillness of sleep, when prophets extend their presence through vision, it is the Creator's way of bridging the gap between heaven and earth, whispering that we are not forgotten. These moments carry immense impact because they awaken in us the certainty that purpose is not imagined. It is real, it is urgent, and it is ours to embody. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because what these dreams reveal is not only divine presence, but the unfolding of a journey. Each encounter is an initiation, a step into greater awareness, an invitation to move beyond surface living and into alignment with eternal truth. And while such experiences often arrive wrapped in mystery, their meaning becomes clear when we recognize their effect. Lives are changed, perspectives are reshaped, and decisions are made that alter the course of destiny. Have you ever dreamed of receiving something sacred, a book, a message, or even a gesture, that felt as though it carried weight beyond imagination? If that resonates with you, write in the comments, "I've received the message." By doing so, you honor the dreams that have spoken into your life, and give others the courage to reflect on the gifts waiting quietly within their own nights. Dreams that carried images of death often left people unsettled, yet Cayce explained that their meaning was not to foretell tragedy, but to signal transformation. When someone dreamed of funerals, coffins, or even their own passing. What was being revealed was the closing of an old chapter and the beginning of something entirely new. It was an invitation to spiritual renewal, a call to let go of the patterns, habits, and attachments that no longer served the soul's journey. These endings were not about loss, but about release, about shedding layers that kept a person tied to fear or limitation. Behind the scenes of those powerful images, the hidden truth was that God was not pointing to death, but to rebirth, the awakening of a new creation, ready to step into light. The impact of such dreams was undeniable. People who experienced them often woke with an unexpected sense of peace, as if the weight of the past had been lifted overnight. For some, these visions became the turning point where destructive behaviors were abandoned and new paths embraced. Addictions were released, broken relationships healed, and decisions rooted in selfishness replaced with choices of service and love. Cayce reminded his listeners that these dreams were God's way of urging souls toward becoming new creations in Christ, transformed not through fear, but through grace. This was the essence of true renewal, dying to what no longer belonged, and rising into a life aligned with divine purpose. Equally striking were dreams where voices spoke without form. These were not faint whispers or confusing murmurs, but clear, commanding words that seemed to bypass the mind and strike directly at the heart. They carried authority no human voice could match, often repeating until the dreamer could no longer ignore them. One woman described hearing the words, "Follow me," night after night, until she surrendered her life to service, dedicating herself to caring for the wounded during wartime. Cayce explained that these voices were not echoes of memory, but direct communication, God's command delivered through the language of the soul. The hidden truth behind these experiences was that God does not always need an image or a figure to make his presence known. Sometimes the pure vibration of the voice is enough, resonating with such clarity that it strips away every doubt. The effect on the dreamer was transformative, often sparking a sense of urgency to act, to align, to move forward. For those who resisted, unrest followed. The voice would return, insistent, until the message was received. For those who obeyed, peace unfolded, and the weight of indecision dissolved into clarity. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because when we look closely at dreams of death, rebirth, and divine voices, we see that they are not random disturbances in the night, but revelations crafted to shift lives. They reveal the hidden architecture of transformation, the way endings lead to beginnings, the way silence gives way to calling, and the way obedience births peace. These dreams carry impact far beyond the personal, often touching families and communities with the ripple effects of one person's courage to listen. They remind us that the language of the soul is not abstract, but urgent, shaping the journey of those willing to surrender to it. Have you ever experienced a dream where something ended only for you to wake up feeling strangely renewed, or heard words in your sleep that seemed impossible to ignore? If so, write in the comments, "I've heard the call." By doing this, you acknowledge the voice that spoke into your own journey, and inspire others to recognize that what they hear in the stillness of the night may also be guiding them toward renewal. There was something unforgettable about the story of the woman who heard the words, "Follow me," echoing in her dreams. They came not once, but night after night, as if the voice was unwilling to let her soul drift back into silence. At first, she resisted, unsure of what it meant, or whether she could truly change the course of her life. Yet the persistence of that message worked its way deeper into her heart until she could no longer ignore it. When she finally surrendered, her entire journey shifted. She chose service, caring for the wounded in a time of war, and in that decision discovered a peace she had never known before. The dream had not been a suggestion, it was a summons. It carried the weight of destiny, and once she obeyed, she realized that what seemed impossible was in fact the life she had been waiting to live. Cayce explained that this is the nature of dreams that carry divine words. They do not flatter or entertain. They direct. They have the power to pierce through hesitation and demand a response. The woman's transformation revealed a hidden truth, that when the soul is called, obedience is not about sacrifice, but about stepping into alignment with something greater than the self. The impact of her decision rippled outward, touching countless lives she served, showing that one person's response to a dream can become the turning point for many others. This same principle appeared in the dreams of doors and gates. For Cayce, these symbols were never neutral. They were invitations, moments, when the divine presented an opening into something new. To dream of a door was to be faced with a choice, not of convenience, but of calling. Sometimes the doors appeared countless, stretching endlessly in corridors, yet only one glowed with unmistakable light. That glow was not decoration, it was direction. It was God's way of showing the dreamer which path was aligned with truth. One man who dreamed of these glowing doors discovered that his own choices in life had been compromised by dishonesty. He was prospering by worldly measures but restless within. When he acted on the dream and chose to walk through the illuminated door, leaving behind the habits that had chained him to false success, he found a deeper kind of prosperity, peace, clarity, and a sense of purpose that money could never buy. The dream was not simply about morality. It was about mindset, about deciding to step out of illusion and into alignment. It was the soul's way of presenting him with a decision that could no longer be delayed. Doors, in this sense, represent more than transition. They are thresholds between who we have been and who we are called to become. Walking through them demands courage, because it often means leaving behind comfort and certainty. Yet Cayce insisted that the glowing door always points to life, to transformation, to renewal. Behind the scenes of these dreams lies a revelation that God does not force entry, but patiently offers opportunities, waiting for the dreamer to decide. And when that decision is made, the impact is undeniable. The restless heart finds peace, the scattered mind finds direction, and the wandering soul finds its true path. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because these dreams of voices, doors, and choices reveal something essential about the way God communicates. They show that the soul is never abandoned to chance, but is constantly being guided, called, and reminded of its mission. Each vision carries within it not only comfort, but challenge, an invitation to grow, to decide, to trust. And those who answer discover that the hidden truth of their journey was never random. It was designed with purpose all along. Have you ever dreamed of standing before a door that seemed to wait for you, or heard words that felt like commands rather than suggestions? If so, write in the comments, "I'm ready to walk through." That phrase will not only affirm your openness to transformation, but will also encourage others to see their own dreams as invitations they, too, can choose to accept. Dreams of journeys have always carried a mysterious power, and in Cayce's readings they became vivid illustrations of the soul's progress. Roads, trains, even flights through the air were not mere backdrops of the subconscious but stages of transformation, showing the unfolding of life's spiritual path. A dream of walking along a road might symbolize the steady progression of growth, each step reflecting patience and resilience. Boarding a train could represent a greater acceleration, a movement toward destiny that the soul could sense but not yet fully see. Flight, with all its freedom, suggested the lifting of burdens, the rising above earthly struggles into a higher awareness of spirit. These journeys revealed that life itself is not static, but an ongoing movement, and that in the hidden spaces of our dreams, we are being shown the map of our own unfolding story. One of the most striking examples was the dream of a man carried endlessly on a train toward the horizon. For him, the scenery never stopped changing, yet the destination never seemed to arrive. Cayce explained that this was not a picture of frustration, but a revelation of preparation. His soul was in a season of endurance, being shaped and strengthened before stepping into its mission. That dream became a reminder that progress is not always about arriving quickly, but about remaining faithful through the in-between. Behind the scenes, it showed the hidden truth that God works in the waiting, molding character, and building resilience so that when the moment of purpose finally arrives, the soul is ready. Cayce insisted that such dreams were far from illusions. They were divine fingerprints pressed into the fabric of human experience, marking lives with guidance and calling. Every image of a journey carried weight, not only for the dreamer, but for those connected to them. A decision to embrace the meaning of the dream often reshaped families, restored relationships, or redirected entire communities. The impact of recognizing that your journey is under divine direction is transformative because it changes the way you see delays, obstacles, and even detours. Instead of despairing at the unknown, you begin to trust that every step is guided, every pause intentional, every horizon closer than it appears. The beauty of these journey dreams lies in their universality. They appear to the farmer tending his land, to the soldier, far from home, to the mother anxious for her children, each one uniquely tailored yet part of the same spiritual pattern. They remind us that no one is left outside of divine communication, that every soul receives its own revelations in the quiet hours of the night. And while the imagery may differ, the essence is the same. God is present in the unfolding, and what may feel like wandering is often the very process of awakening. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic, because the symbolism of journeys also points to decisions we face daily in waking life. The road that stretches endlessly may mirror the persistence needed to overcome challenges. The train that never stops might reflect a season where patience is the true test of faith. The flight into the skies could symbolize a moment when you are being asked to let go of old weight, to trust that rising above the familiar will reveal new vision. Each of these is not only a dream, but an echo of the soul's deeper calling, to live awake, aware, and aligned. Have you ever dreamed of traveling somewhere, whether by road, train, or flight, and felt that it carried a meaning too strong to dismiss? If you have, write in the comments, "I'm on the journey." By sharing those words, you affirm your recognition of movement within your own soul, and remind others that even in waiting, even in uncertainty, their path is still unfolding under divine guidance. Dreams have a way of presenting us with choices that appear simple on the surface yet carry profound consequences for our lives. Take the woman who dreamed of walking into a house filled with endless rooms. Some were bright and overflowing with light, while others stood empty, dark and heavy with silence. To anyone else, it may have seemed like an odd and meaningless vision, but Cayce revealed that what she had seen was a mirror of her own soul, a crossroads between living in fear or embracing faith. By choosing to step into the illuminated rooms, she was, in truth, choosing to live in alignment with divine presence, rather than surrendering to despair. That one dream shifted her mindset, transforming not only her personal journey but her role within the community. In the years that followed, she became a beacon of hope, guiding others through prayer and acts of service. It was more than survival. It was transformation born out of revelation, the hidden truth that the soul always has the power to choose light over darkness. The same principle emerged in the dreams of soldiers living in the shadow of war. One man described repeatedly finding himself on a narrow bridge, shadows grasping at him from below, threatening to pull him into the abyss. In his waking life, he was overwhelmed by the fear of death and the burden of uncertainty. Yet Cayce explained that the bridge was not a prediction of danger, but a symbol of faith, the path across fear into trust. The shadows were not omens of doom, but reflections of his own anxieties trying to hold him back. The dream was urging him to keep moving, to place his trust in divine protection. And when he returned from battle, he testified that the vision gave him strength each day to face what lay ahead. What had seemed like an unsettling dream became a lifeline, proof that even in the darkest circumstances, God still spoke through the quiet language of the night. Equally moving were the dreams that appeared in children, where the innocence of youth met the timeless guidance of the soul. A young boy dreamed of a man dressed in white who placed a hand gently on his chest. His parents were filled with dread, fearing it meant illness or tragedy, but Cayce revealed the hidden meaning. The man in white was not a figure of doom, but of healing, a messenger of divine purpose. The touch was not a warning, but a blessing, foreshadowing the boy's future path of ministry and service. Indeed, as he grew, the boy dedicated his life to helping others, fulfilling the mission his dream had quietly announced. In this way, even childhood visions carried weight, reminding us that age does not limit the soul's ability to hear God's voice. These stories show that dreams, when embraced, are not distant myths, but living guidance, shaping lives in ways both subtle and dramatic. Behind the scenes of each vision lies the possibility of a decision, whether to walk into the room of light, to cross the bridge of faith, or to recognize the hand of blessing as a sign of calling. Each choice transforms not only the dreamer but those around them, rippling outward with impact that cannot be measured. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because the thread connecting these dreams is not merely symbolism, but responsibility. They challenge us to look at our own lives and ask, which rooms are we choosing to enter? Which bridges are we willing to cross? Which blessings are we brave enough to receive? The answers to these questions often define the journey we live in waking hours, long after the dream has faded from memory. Have you ever had a dream that felt like a choice laid before you, one path filled with fear, the other with light? If so, share it by writing, "I choose the light." Those words will not only honor the truth within your own journey but also inspire others to reflect on the decisions their dreams may already be guiding them to make. Dreams often arrive not only as comfort, but also as warnings, pulling us back when our choices begin to drift from alignment with truth. One striking case was that of a businessman who dreamed of being trapped inside a collapsing building. The walls crumbled around him, and there seemed to be no way out. He woke shaken, convinced it was a sign of disaster to come. When he turned to Cayce for guidance, the message was clear. The building was not about physical destruction, but about the crumbling foundation of his own integrity. His pursuit of wealth at the cost of honesty had left his spiritual house unstable. The dream was a merciful warning, offering him the chance to change course before the collapse moved from symbolic to real. When he embraced the correction, leaving behind corrupt deals and choosing a path of honesty, his life transformed. What had begun as a nightmare became the very moment that saved him from ruin, revealing the hidden truth that even frightening dreams are not punishments, but opportunities for transformation. Cayce often insisted that to truly understand such revelations, people needed to cultivate the habit of keeping a dream journal. He believed that writing dreams down immediately upon waking was like capturing footprints in the sand before the tide washed them away. These journals became maps of the soul's journey, revealing patterns that would otherwise go unnoticed. At first, a single dream might seem insignificant, but over weeks and months, connections appeared, symbols repeated, voices returned, and themes intertwined, forming a thread of guidance woven directly through the fabric of sleep. For many, this practice became a way of recognizing divine communication in real time, shifting decisions and shaping lives with clarity they never thought possible. Behind the scenes of this practice lies a powerful truth. Dreams are deeply personal. A river for one person might represent healing, while for another it could signify the urgency of time slipping away. A voice that says, "Wait," to one dreamer might mean, "Move now," to another. Cayce acknowledged that interpretation was never about rigid formulas, but about listening to the unique dialogue between God and each soul. And yet, he also saw 7 recurring patterns: light, water, messengers, death and rebirth, voices, doors, and journeys that appeared again and again across cultures, ages, and circumstances. These universal images reminded him that while every soul carries its own story, the divine language remains consistent. They were like signposts along the spiritual road, ensuring no traveler ever wandered too far without receiving a call back to purpose. The impact of this discovery is profound. It means that the language of dreams is both personal and universal, intimate to each life, yet shared by humanity as a whole. It is as if every soul writes its own story with symbols tailored to its journey, while at the same time drawing from a collective vocabulary written into the human experience. This explains why a farmer, a soldier, a mother, or a child might all dream of the same archetypes, even though their lives are vastly different. Each dream carries its own nuance, but together they reveal that no one is excluded from divine communication. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because the combination of warning and guidance shows us that dreams are not passive images, but active participants in shaping our choices. They confront us when we stray, they encourage us when we falter, and they remind us of truths we might prefer to ignore. When someone chooses to listen, transformation follows, not just as a private experience, but as a ripple that impacts families, communities, and even generations. It is this balance of the personal and the universal that makes dreams such powerful tools of revelation. Have you ever experienced a dream that felt like a warning, urging you to correct your path before it was too late? If you have, write in the comments, "I've seen the sign." By doing so, you not only acknowledge the guidance in your own journey but also inspire others to pay attention to the subtle ways their souls may already be speaking. Cayce often reminded people that the way we treat the very first moments of the day reveals much about how we treat the voice of the soul. He warned against the habit of waking and immediately drowning in distractions, reaching for noise before even pausing to listen. Those fragile minutes just after opening your eyes are sacred, a time when the echoes of the night are still fresh, when the hidden truth of a dream can still be felt before it fades. To ignore them is to close the door on guidance that was given freely, often tailored to the exact needs of the heart. Reflection upon waking becomes a practice of reverence, a way of honoring the journey your soul is taking behind the scenes, even when the waking world seems to demand urgency. This simple act of slowing down and reflecting also positioned Cayce in a unique place between faith and science. While skeptics dismissed dreams as mere brain activity, he stood firm in saying they were more than chemical reactions, they were communications of the soul, yet he did not deny the workings of the mind. Instead, he united the two perspectives, showing that reason and revelation are not enemies, but allies. The brain might record impressions, but the soul provides the meaning. This harmony between faith and science opened an entirely new mindset, one that allowed seekers to embrace the spiritual without rejecting the practical. For many, this was a revelation, to realize that dreams are not irrational fantasies, but deeper than reason, carrying truths that logic alone cannot uncover. By framing dreams in this way, Cayce shifted the narrative from superstition to sacred opportunity. He explained that dreams were not fortune-telling devices, not glimpses of predetermined outcomes, but invitations. Each vision was a call to transformation, an encouragement to step into service, to grow, to align with divine purpose. They were never meant to frighten or enslave the dreamer with fatalistic predictions. Instead, they were gentle nudges, urging the soul toward higher choices. The impact of this perspective was enormous, because it reframed how people approached their lives. Instead of fearing what dreams might mean, they began to see them as encouragements, as companions in their spiritual journey. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because seeing dreams as invitations changes the very decisions we make in waking life. If you believe a dream is a warning, you might live in fear. But if you understand it as a sacred call, you begin to move differently, with courage and clarity. This change in mindset is powerful. It transforms hesitation into trust, doubt into action. And more than that, it reinforces the truth that life itself is not random. Just as dreams invite us to act, so too do our daily experiences, each moment becoming part of a greater dialogue between God and the soul. Have you ever awakened from a dream and felt it was asking something of you, not predicting your future, but inviting you to step closer to purpose? If so, write in the comments, "I accept the invitation." By doing this, you not only recognize the weight of your own experience, but also remind others that their dreams too may be quiet calls waiting to be answered. Cayce's words carried a tone of urgency that could not be softened, because he understood something many prefer to ignore. Once a divine call is recognized, postponement is not harmless. It eats away at the spirit. He explained that the longer someone delays acting on a dream that carries weight, the more restlessness grows, like a tide that refuses to retreat. To see the light, to hear the voice, to feel the pull of purpose, and yet to remain still, that is what truly unsettles the soul. He described this not as punishment, but as the natural consequence of resisting truth. The dream does not disappear. It presses harder, circling back, night after night, reminding the dreamer of the decision that waits to be made. It is not cruelty. It is mercy, an insistence that we not lose the chance to step into the life we were created to live. This urgency is tied to one of Cayce's most powerful metaphors, the silent knock of God. He said that dreams often function as that gentle, yet persistent tapping at the door of the soul. It is not thunder, not a dramatic spectacle, but a quiet rhythm that refuses to be ignored. The image of a door is striking because it speaks to free will. The knock can be heard, but it cannot open the door for you. Only the dreamer can decide to rise, to turn the handle, to let in what has been waiting on the other side. That is the hidden truth behind the language of dreams. They are not commands that force compliance, but invitations that ask for consent. God knocks, but he waits. Imagine the impact of realizing that every dream carrying weight may be this very knock. Some hear it as a voice urging forgiveness after years of resentment. Others feel it in the image of light so radiant it leaves them weeping with clarity. Still others find it in the vision of a door glowing in the distance, begging to be crossed. And in each case, the responsibility rests with the dreamer. Will you answer? Will you act immediately, even if it means leaving behind comfort, certainty, or the version of yourself that no longer serves the path ahead? Behind the scenes of so many of Cayce's case studies, this was the pivotal moment. The knock came, the call was recognized, and everything hinged on the response. Those who delayed often found themselves tormented by restlessness, circling in confusion until they finally yielded. Those who answered quickly experienced transformation that rippled far beyond their own lives. Families healed, communities were inspired, and new journeys began because someone chose not to ignore the urgency of the soul's language. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because this urgency is not only about dreams but about life itself. We each encounter moments that carry a similar weight, choices that stand before us like glowing doors, voices that rise within us demanding change, visions that press into our hearts with undeniable force. In these moments, hesitation feels safer, but it is costly. Acting with courage aligns us with something larger than ourselves, something that has been waiting quietly for us to respond. That is why Cayce insisted that dreams are never simply about sleep. They are the ongoing dialogue between God and the soul, reminding us of the decisions that shape destiny. Have you ever felt that knock within, whether in a dream or in waking life, and sensed that it was time to answer without delay? If so, write in the comments, "I hear the knock." By leaving those words, you acknowledge not only your own recognition of the call, but also encourage others to notice the gentle rhythm at the door of their own soul. If you've stayed with me until now, it tells me this message spoke to something deep inside you. That's why I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel, so every new insight, every reflection, every revelation, like this one, finds its way straight to you. And if you felt connected to this journey, let me know in the comments by writing, "I'm with you until the end." I'll be watching for those words, because they're a reminder of the bond we've created here. Don't forget to leave a like as well. It's a simple way of showing that this conversation touched you, that it brought clarity or comfort. And if you're ready to keep going, there's a video right here that complements everything we've uncovered together. Click and continue with me over there. The journey is just getting started.